Class is in session, hitting the books, Pub Sports Radio, Monday, November 27th. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack ready to break down one of the favorite weeks that we have all season in college football, Conference Championship Week. And this is finally the week where the rubber meets the road. We're going to determine not only conference champions in the Power 5 conferences, in the group of 5 conferences, but we're also going to determine which 4 teams will qualify for the college football playoff. This has been as wide open a year where there's really no clear-cut 4 teams to make the college football playoff as any we've seen. And C-Mac, my first thought all these weeks seeing this play out is how disappointing it is they couldn't have pushed this new 12-team college football playoff format through to start this year instead of next year. Because I'll tell you what, they could have used it this year, the new format, 12 teams, because I think there's 12 deserving teams to make the playoff. But this year, the last year of the 4-team playoff format, only 4 teams are going to be lucky enough to get in.
Yeah, I know we got to wait another year. You know, all the rules and restrictions and all that crap, why they couldn't do it. But I look forward to it, and we're going to have all the shakeup, of all these teams, the Pac-12 no longer, and everything else that's shaking up with all these conferences. So kind of the last of what we've been used to lately, the 4, the playoff, and these teams in these conferences. So last hurrah.
Absolutely. It is the last hurrah. And we are going to kick off Conference Championship Week on Friday night, our first game. It's really a game that's for all the marbles. It's got that Ohio State-Michigan feel to it here where there's just so much on the line. And just like with that game, this one here between Oregon and Washington to decide the Pac-12 championship on Friday night, there's no guarantee for the loser of this game that they are getting into the college football playoff. So this ends up being just a massive, massive game. So we will begin right there with Oregon and Utah. Oregon and Washington, rather. I got Utah on the brain. We've got Oregon 9.5-point favorites here, total 67. Of course, this is a neutral field for the Pac-12 championship. This game beginning at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. C-Mac, you should be going to this game. How could you not want to go to this? This is probably the best game of the weekend.
Yeah, I don't know. I might go. Because this is a Friday night. I might actually go. So, yeah. All right up the road for me. 10 minutes. Less than 10 minutes. I bet you I get there quicker. 10 minutes, man.
I mean, that's my first thought when I saw that it was in Las Vegas. I mean, C-Mac might make his way on down to watch this one. And look, this is obviously a massive, massive game between Oregon and Washington. I think it's a damn good chance that whoever loses this game will not make the playoff. You could maybe make an argument based on the dominoes falling with other games involving other teams this weekend that perhaps you could make a case that's still a 1-loss Washington team, even as a non-conference champion, would still maybe slide their way in. But even then, it's shaky at best, depending on, what your Texas and your Ohio States and so many other teams do this weekend. Alabama, for instance, there's just so many dominoes that have to fall. But Oregon's definitely not going to be in the playoff if they lose this game. As with 2 losses and no conference championship, Washington beating them twice, there's no way Oregon would have a path to the playoffs. So definitely Oregon needs to win to get in the playoff. And I think there's a strong chance Washington probably needs to win to get into the playoff here as well. Not to mention Florida State, because I don't care what you say about the situation there, that Jordan Travis is hurt. Florida State struggles just to get by a mediocre Florida team last week. But there's no way the committee is going to keep an undefeated ACC championship team, assuming they beat Louisville on Saturday. There's no way the committee is going to keep Florida State out, as an undefeated team and a conference champion as well. So that's another domino that has to fall. But the bottom line is these 2 teams know what's at stake, and to rest assured they're in the playoff, win this game. Just win, baby. They're in the house of, the team that used to be owned by Al Davis, who coined that phrase. So, yeah, just win, baby, in Las Vegas on Friday night, and you'll be in the college football playoff. So where do we begin here? We begin with the fact that Washington has not looked like their old selves, especially on offense the last few weeks. I think that's what really stands out about the Huskies down the stretch. I don't know. Is it Michael Penix Jr. has just hit a wall of fatigue and just the long grind of a season? Is he hurt? I think there is a part of me that thinks he's playing at less than 100%. I truly do think that he's not quite at 100% health. But that still, doesn't explain that just a drop off in the offense really since the Utah game. They struggled to get past Oregon State. They only scored 22 points and didn't score a point in the second half in beating Oregon State as well in that game. So the offense went very quiet in that game. And then in the Apple Cup, now granted the conditions it was a cold, dreary kind of day weather-wise there for the Apple Cup, but nevertheless, that was not a pretty offensive performance either in getting by Washington State 24-21. And keep in mind that had been a Washington State team that had been pretty much lit up defensively in every recent game. So, there are some concerns, as this offense, peaked they peaked early and now they've kind of fallen off just a little bit. But they found ways to win. What's good about Washington's last two wins is that the defense, for a change, was able to bail them out in both victories where, Penix Jr. and the offense didn't have to put up 30, 40 points to win that game. Credit the Washington D, which has gotten the job done and gotten better here these last couple of games. But that defense is certainly in for a challenge when you look at what Oregon is doing right now offensively. It's a battle of two great quarterbacks. It goes without saying, Bo Nix and Michael Penix Jr. Nix's numbers are even slightly better than Penix. He has more passing yards than Penix Jr. His touchdown to interception ratio is even better than Michael Penix. I think it's 32-8 touchdown to interception ratio for Penix Jr. It's 37-2 touchdown to interception ratio for Bo Nix. So that is just some outstanding numbers for him. The Oregon Ducks seem to be, I don't know, I just look at these two teams and I think Oregon is really playing their best football right now. And I think it started with the Utah win where they went to Salt Lake City, Conor. They beat the brakes off Utah 35-6. And really since then, you look at what they've done, destroying Cal 63-19. The USC game, that was a little closer. That's the one game they didn't cover, but they were in control most of the way. Kind of fell asleep with a big lead. And then the Arizona State game, 49-13, and then a dominant win over a pretty good Oregon State team. Like that was dominance, both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively against Oregon State. I think Oregon's going to get them here because you look at the first meeting, Conor, Washington escapes with the victory, but they were outgained significantly by Oregon in that game, 541-415 in total yards in favor of Oregon. Oregon was in one of those deals where you think, how do they outgain Washington 541-415 and lose the game? Well, they got stopped on fourth down a bunch of times. That's how. I mean, Dan Lanning has been a very aggressive coach this year as far as going for it on fourth down. They stopped over and fourth down in that. And that was the difference. They couldn't cash in on those fourth down opportunities multiple times in the red zone as well, where they turn those into points and they definitely win that game. So, you could have argued they were the better team that day slightly and they lost. Give credit to Washington. They found a way to win that. But to me, Oregon it's tough to step in front of this group right now. Now, was I expecting them to lay this much? I expected them to be around a touchdown favorite. Did I expect them to be this high now above a touchdown? We're talking now you got to lay 9.5 points against a team that hasn't lost a game this year. Say what you will about how Washington doesn't seem to be playing their best football now. Oregon is, but that's a big number to lay. That being said, I'm not in a rush to bet Washington, even getting all these points, because Oregon's going to want this one. Oregon probably feels they could have won the first meeting, and that is a team that right now is playing better. So I could only look at the Oregon side. Just a question of, do you want to lay almost double digits with the number in its current position? What do you think here, Conor? Pac-12 title game.
Yeah, you hit this. I thought this would be 6 or 7, but that's Washington, just how they've been playing. And really, those two games, Oregon State and SC, where they were small favorites, did they cover? But anything else, I think they're 2-5 the last 7 against the number. And the Ducks keep winning and covering for their backers. They're just riding high, playing their best football. The defense looks really, really good. The best, I've seen from them all year, especially these last 3 or 4 games. And so now we have, 9.5. Now there's some 9s in this game. I thought it was just a little bit too high. But Oregon has everything going for them, playing better, the double revenge. You talked about this game this year. It was so similar. I think they were a little bit better on fourth down, but the stats are almost dead similar to the game the year before, November of 22, that 37-34 game. I went through that.
Oregon outgained them there too and lost. Yep.
Outgained them 592 to 522. And similar numbers. Penix threw for a little bit more in that one, 408, but he had a pick. Nix was solid. And let's hit the total real fast. Both these games just got over. The numbers right here. I thought if the defense is a little bit better, because all of a sudden the Washington offense hasn't been what it's kind of been lately the last 3 weeks, especially against a Washington State team last week. That did not look good. Now, is Penix hurt like you talked about? I don't know, but something's definitely not right. It just looks like from the receivers, the timing that was just clicking the first 4 or 5 weeks, they don't look like themselves. So this is tough. And what in that first game, I mean, either you won with a 2.5 if you got it, you pushed, or if you got Oregon plus 3.5, which I grabbed late, you covered with them in that game, the 36-33. I think in the end it's too close. It's tough because the way Washington's playing, but I think as long as you have a guy like Penix, I think they're in it. It's just this ultimate double revenge. Oregon playing well. Do they go on their romp? I lean the points. I just think it's too many over the touchdown. And the total, I'm going to stay off because I was on both those overs, and it just got over this last game. And the points flowed. It was pretty good the whole way. As it keep doing that this game, because if that happens, it will get over the 66.5. It's come down a little bit, tad bit from 67. So that's tough. I don't know if I play this total now, but I still have to lean the dog. And that's crazy to say because I don't want to back Washington at all. You know? But now you're dangling these points. Maybe I'm a sucker here. I fuck. I don't know. I got to look at this game a little bit more too.
Well, you just said it. You know, it's bet numbers, not teams, is ultimately what you have to do. Okay, and that's the thing here. I don't think odds makers have done people looking for a discount on Oregon any favors. They have not done any favors to anyone looking for a discount or a bargain on Oregon in this game. Odds makers have clearly adjusted to the fact that these two teams in the last smaller, shorter term, the last month or so, there is a gap between these two. Oregon looks phenomenal, playing their best, both sides of the ball, and it's running the football. Nick's throwing it. Like I say, he's not making any mistakes. You look at what they've got as far as weapons as well with Bucky Irving, and you look at a great receiving corps, Troy Franklin and company. I mean, it's just they're loaded and they're playing great football at the right time. Whereas Washington, their defense has had some ups and downs, albeit, it's the defense that's actually stepped up to bail out some of the offensive decline we've seen the last couple of weeks. Rome Odunze has been incredible. There's no doubt about that. He continues to be just an absolute beast. But I find, other than him and maybe Westover, over the middle, there's the other receivers have been sort of subdued, lately in recent games for Washington. And you're right. Penix has just been off the mark, just a little off, because we were just in the first half of the year, every pass that sent was boom, right in the receiver's hands in stride. And, I just don't think he's had that level of touch and accuracy and pinpoint precision in the pocket, throwing the football down the stretch compared to early in the season. And that's not saying he's been bad. He's just been not that just incredible, just pitch perfect self that he was early in the year.
Yeah. And give it up for, to Bo Nix. The guy's just playing unreal football, and they're the number one passing team in the country. And over those last 5 games or so, like we've been talking about, it's been the Oregon defense just as good. And that's kind of been the difference. And that will that be here in a Washington defense that's slipped. And it shows in all the numbers too.
Yeah, let's give Bo credit. I mean, we've been doing this show so long, hitting the books here on Pub Sports Radio. And we thank all of you for watching it. And that's why we've been able to do it the last few years running. We started doing this show back when I think Bo was in his first year at Auburn. It feels like ages ago. And look, it never looked like he was going to be any sort of competent, capable, effective college quarterback early in his career. I mean, the Auburn run was not very good for him. at all. But credit to him. He transfers out. He goes to Oregon. He obviously is surrounded with good coaching, a lot of great skill position talent. But at the same time, he's got to make that improvement as a quarterback, or else it's not going to matter. None of it's going to matter. You could put everyone around. You could put all the great talent around, Mac Jones right now in the NFL. It's not going to matter. The quarterback has to be able to make it happen. And Bo Nix has done it. He's improved significantly. Accuracy, pocket awareness, poise, decision-making. Man, how many bad decisions with the football did Bo Nix make in Auburn? Interceptions just plagued the guy when he was there.
Turnovers.
Just turnover machine. And he's just eradicated. He's got 2 interceptions this year. 2. I mean, that's just an incredible number to go this long with only 2 interceptions this year. So I'm torn on this. I wanted to back Oregon. I still think I'd be reluctant to take Washington, but it is a stiff number here at -9, considering Washington beat them last year and this year so far. And the total's tough because you look at the game last year, 71 points. You look at the game earlier this year, 69 points, 2-0 to the over. With these, actually last year went under because the total was 73.5, but it would be 2-0 to the over with this number that we see here for the Pac-12 championship, which is at 66.5, 67. But so I probably want to lean over, but at the same time, Washington's offense is not a team you think of right now as clicking enough to want to bet over a number like this. And their last 2 games have gone way under against Washington State and Oregon State. So it's a tough game all around. Right now, I'm leaning Oregon. I'm leaning over. And I'm not overly confident on either, but I want to throw out something. I'm leaning Oregon still, even at the -9. And I could only look over just based on the series history. But I am concerned about the improvement of the Oregon defense. Even Washington's defense has gotten better the last few games, and Washington's offense just hasn't been piling up the points like they were earlier in the season.
Yeah, the double loss I talked revenge, Oregon playing so well. You got to feel good if you like that. On the flip side, the thing, if you want to go with Washington, is they played with these guys. You can go from that. This team's still undefeated. Like, these coaches should get these guys up for this huge game in Vegas Friday night, but they're just not playing good football. So it should be fun.
The thing is, too, you look at the defensive numbers, both teams, and if they're weaker in one area, both teams, it's against the pass. The run defense numbers of both sides are actually pretty solid. At the pass defense, the numbers are a little bit weaker. So I definitely think Bo, as far as receiving yards or passing yards, might be a good, if you can find player props, and there will be player props on this game for sure. Bo Nix over passing yards, I could definitely see it. I could definitely see it for sure against this Washington team. I think that's definitely one where it makes sense. And yeah, there's some truth to that. Someone in the chat, books are telling us all we need to know, that Oregon lost to Washington last year, lost to Washington this year, and now here they are laying 9 in the Pac-12 championship game here against Washington. So does that mean lay it or don't play it? Perhaps. But again, the number did come a little bit higher on Oregon than I thought it would, even though I knew they'd be close to a touchdown favorite. And Conor agrees as well. This was a little higher than he thought. But right now I'm leaning Oregon and over. Conor leaning Washington a little bit right now at the current number. All right, we wanted to give that one some more time because it's such a huge game. It's everything on the line there with Oregon and Washington. Guaranteed the team that wins that Pac-12 championship game Friday night will be in the college football playoff. All right, let's go to the other game Friday night. And yes, this one might get lost in the shuffle considering it's up against Oregon, Washington, the game everyone's going to be watching. But don't sleep on this game. Conference USA championship game. New Mexico State and Liberty. Liberty 10.5-point home favorites, 54.5 the total. And I can say home favorites in this game because this is a true home game for Liberty. This is on their home field, Williams Stadium in Lynchburg, Virginia. That's the way it is every year in the Conference USA championship game. The team with the better record hosts the conference championship game every year. And of course, that is Liberty. What a year one for Jamie Chadwell. And all you have to do is watch that debacle, that disgrace that Tim Beck has turned Coastal Carolina into this season. I couldn't believe how pathetic they were on Saturday against a James Madison team that was supposed to have a bubble burst. factor.
Yeah.
Their undefeated season snapped. Coastal waiting there, looking to get into they could have won. They're in this game instead of, or they're in the Coastal Carolina's in the Sun Belt Championship game instead of App State. If they beat James Madison, they had all the incentive. Final home game, all the incentive to show up against James Madison. And their offense was inept, totally and utterly inept in that game. And Tim Beck has destroyed that offense, an offense that Jamie Chadwell, every year he was at Coastal Carolina, he had it humming. And now he's taken that offense that was humming there and he's brought it to Liberty, where Jamie Chadwell's just done an outstanding coach, clearly. There's no question about that. He's done an outstanding job with this team. It's just a fun team to watch. And they are an offense that can score any which way whatsoever, whether it's Caden Salter throwing it, Caden Salter running it because he's got great wheels, dual threat quarterback, Quentin Cooley in the backfield. They've got good receivers too, as led by CJ Daniels. It's a very, very good, potent team offensively, and they have done significant damage all season long. They have gone now in 6 straight games, 38 plus or more points scored for this Liberty team. They've just been absolute machines right now, the Liberty Flames. Just an incredibly well-coordinated team, no doubt. Like I said, Salter's been excellent. Cooley's been running it well. Daniels, especially leading them at receiver. It's just a great offensive line because they're just plowing open holes, every single week. So it's an offense that is definitely dangerous, and it's a defense that you look at what they've done this year, pretty solid, and it's why they've gotten here in a conference where there's some issues with a lot of teams defensively. Liberty's done a nice job in that regard. So we'll see how they fare here in this one against New Mexico State. But I'll tell you what, for as incredible as Liberty is, undefeated, 12-0, what a job this season by Jerry Kill at New Mexico State. Absolutely terrific turnaround. I never thought in a million years New Mexico State would be Conference USA championship level good this year. I had them over their win total. I said, I think they could win 6, 7, maybe even 8 games. I didn't think a 10-win football team this year. Absolutely terrific. You talk about another team where their defense has just absolutely gotten better as well. New Mexico State. They have played extremely well on the defensive side of the football. They've gotten pressure on opposing quarterbacks. They've been pretty stout against the run as well. They're only giving up 3.9 yards per carry and 126 rushing yards per game. When you look at the Liberty offense going into this game, they are not that they can't throw it. They can, but it is it was like this with Chadwell's offenses at Coastal, all those years. They're really run heavy. They're run first, and it's really not close. They certainly rely heavily on the ground attack working. When you look at how New Mexico State's defensive line, especially in the interior, has matched up with their run defense this year against opposing teams, it's not going to be easy for Liberty to do what they want offensively in this game. New Mexico State has done a great job, like I said, against the run. All you have to do is look at that upset, one of the biggest upsets of the season, 25-point dog at Auburn a couple weeks ago, beating Auburn 31-10. Now, you could argue Auburn was looking ahead to the Iron Bowl. They didn't focus too much on New Mexico State. Yeah, you could make that argument to a certain extent. But at some point, you also have to give credit to New Mexico State, going into Auburn and just shutting that offense down and holding Auburn to what? Peyton Thorne was their leading rusher in that game, 38 yards rushing. They couldn't get anything going on the ground. Auburn had 65 rushing yards on 26 carries against that New Mexico State defense in that game. So I think when you look at this matchup, and as explosive as Liberty has been on offense this year and all the points they rack up, they have moved the football primarily on the ground. It's not a phenomenal passing attack. It's a good, decent passing attack, but they need to run the football to be effective. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it against New Mexico State as well as they want to do it, because the Aggies have just been absolutely exceptional on defense against the run. And then on the flip side, their own offense, I love Diego Pavia's game. He's had a terrific season, dual threat quarterback. Like I said, I think one of the best quarterbacks that New Mexico State's had in years. They are an offense that when you look at the numbers, they obviously want to run the football quite a bit too, and their numbers are skewed to the run heavily to the run, just like Liberty's offense. But the difference is when you look at the defensive numbers here for Liberty against the run, they're solid. They're really, really good as well. But I think there's a little bit more of a passing element to New Mexico State. And I think that's the key to this game. Caden Salter, hit or miss in the passing game. I think with Diego Pavia, he's shown he can make plays. He's shown he can get outside the pocket. And to me, if the run games are shut down, it's going to be who can make the best plays with their feet. Pavia can do it. Caden Salter can do it. And who's going to be able to throw the football more accurately and create more explosive big plays in the passing game? Because I think it's going to be tough sledding for both teams to do what they want to do best, and that's run the football in this game against these two teams. So I like the points here with New Mexico State. I've cashed so many tickets with them this year. The eye test tells me that while Liberty's been absolutely phenomenal, let's also keep in mind when you look at this Liberty schedule, let's get serious here. Sam Houston State, Jacksonville State, that was a pretty good win. I'll give them that. But since that Jacksonville State win, Middle Tennessee, who just fired their coach, by the way, Rick Stockstill, after almost 20 years today. Western Kentucky, who's not the same team as they've been. Louisiana Tech, a dreadful, disastrous, disappointing year. Old Dominion, 38-10, up and down team, barely made bowl eligibility. And then the last two games were UMass and UTEP, two horrible football teams. So I don't want to get too wrapped up in all these gaudy numbers and scoreboard final results for Liberty, because they've really feasted on the week. Whereas New Mexico State, their schedule has been a cupcake for much of the season too. I don't argue that whatsoever. But they have the win against Auburn. They showed their mettle against an SEC squad on the road earlier this season. That's significant to me. It showed me that.
And then last week, everyone said that the flat spot that they would lose, and the money went to Jacksonville. Baveno. The line went to what, 3 by kickoff?
Exactly. And they lost. This is a rematch because they played Liberty September the 9th. They lost 33-17. I think they've gotten better since then, New Mexico State. I really do. And I like that little intangible. We lost 33-17 to Liberty earlier this year. Not that Liberty's not going to just rest on their laurels. We beat this team already, but I think there's a little intangible edge that you go at the extra mile for Jerry Kill. You go the extra mile, you see what the fuck didn't work in the first meeting against Liberty, and you really try to correct it, and you adjust even more. When you beat the team already like Liberty did, you don't do that as much. So I trust the coaching staff with what they've been able to do this year to be able to make some adjustments and make this a competitive football game. That's all we need. If Liberty's laying a field goal or even a touchdown here, maybe I'm not on it. But we're getting 10.5 with a team that has been stout in the trenches, can, I think, neutralize what Liberty does best on offense, and that's run it, and a team that's shown that they can go to Auburn against a team like that. Now, not the vintage Auburn team, but still, we almost saw Auburn beat Alabama last week in the Iron Bowl. So for New Mexico State to go in there and beat them, that's a significant feather in their cap, and it shows me that based on the matchup, based on where this number is, I think New Mexico State a little undervalued here. I'm taking the Aggies here, plus 10.5. What do you think here, Conor Mack, Conference USA Championship?
Yeah, I think this line was just about right. I think Liberty might win this football game. You hit what I was going to go through. Their schedule, they really didn't play anybody. And I went back to the game September 9th, where I think New Mexico State's gotten better. And that game was 23-17 at half, Babano. And the first 3 possessions for New Mexico State coming out of that third was a fumble, a 3-and-out, and a pick. And they got done. They scored 10, and the game was just over. Yep. Both teams didn't score in the fourth. They kind of went on cruise control. So those 3 possessions just they kind of shot themselves in the foot, New Mexico State. I think their defense is a little bit better. What Liberty still should be able to run it. Well, they had 250 in that first game. I don't know if they get that again, but I think they got to take the over 10 here with New Mexico State. And I love Liberty. Liberty's kicked a lot of teams' asses, a lot of bad teams, and they're very good and might win this game. But I got to be with the points here. I got to take the 10.5 with New Mexico State as well.
So I
don't know about the total real quick here. Liberty's so good. It's usually they've gotten over the number. I don't know. I'm going to stay off the total because this could just stay under, or we could just get maybe a few too many points and get over. The Liberty defense too, Babano, real quick. There's been so good. Like last week, it's kind of their scores. They beat up on teams and then let teams score like in the fourth. Like UTEP didn't do anything until the fourth quarter, where they were blown out by 40 and they scored 2 or 3 touchdowns last week. So yeah, nothing on the total right now.
Now it's going to be interesting. It's a you know what, I know Oregon Washington. We're all excited to watch that game. Obviously, it goes without saying, but don't sleep on this. This is a really good football game here with New Mexico State. And I'm excited to watch this one because it's two excellent teams. It's by far the two best teams in Conference USA this year. This total's just you're right. It's a conundrum for me. This total, because you look at these two teams. Neither team's going to play fast. You know, you look at it, Liberty is a methodical, ball control type of offense for the most part this season. And certainly that's going to be the case with New Mexico State. There's no question about that. New Mexico State's 129 out of 133 teams in FBS football.
They've been a great under for me. I've been on about 4 or 5 of them. Yeah, they are slow.
So they're going to really slow it down. And Liberty's not that much faster. Liberty's 108 in the country in seconds per play. But they're betting it over. The total's actually gone up. Efficient.
That's why. Efficient offense. Yeah. Slow but efficient. Yeah.
Very efficient. And when they get in the red zone, both of them, they've been really good at scoring touchdowns lately. So I think they see that efficiency. That efficiency could get there as far as the over is concerned. But if you're betting pace and pace only, you're not betting this thing over at 54.5, 55 based on pace, because both of these teams are methodical. And like I said, both of them in the bottom, I would say 25 to 30 teams in college football for seconds per play as far as pace goes. So it's a great matchup, though. Looking forward to it on Friday night with New Mexico State and Liberty. And you know what about New Mexico State? Everybody's impressed, obviously. You beat Auburn as almost 4-touchdown underdog on the road. That's impressive. I think I was just as impressed with last week, though. You mentioned it, Connor. Yeah, beating Jacksonville State. You're coming off that game. And you've got this game, a revenge game, and the conference title game on deck. You had every excuse in the world to just fuck off against Jacksonville State last week and just roll over and dead as a doornail and hungover and flat as a pancake in a meaningless game in between the Auburn win and this big game. And they didn't do it. They didn't roll over. They played a really good game. They gutted it out. Was it pretty? No. But and Jacksonville State's no slouch. Jacksonville State's a pretty good team in this conference and had a pretty good season for Rich Rod. So that was just as impressive seeing them win that game, because all I heard everybody say all week was let down city. You got to take Jacksonville State in this spot. And New Mexico State was still able to beat them. Just an outstanding job by there's so many guys that have done great jobs in the group of 5 this year. We'll talk about another in Barry Odom for UNLV later, but certainly Jerry Kill right up there with some of the great coaching jobs in the group of 5 this year in college football. All right, let's go to Saturday. We've got the Big 12 championship game, Oklahoma State and Texas. Texas 14-point home favorites, 55 the total in this game. Texas just absolutely destroying their rival, Texas Tech, on Black Friday night. I mean, that got ugly in a hurry. It got away from Texas Tech in a hurry. And it was just a very, very impressive win for the Longhorns in that game. 57-7 beatdown for them over the Texas Tech Red Raiders. It's got so bad that we got to see a little first dose of Arch Manning at quarterback at the end of that game for the Longhorns. It ended up getting so lopsided. But nevertheless, that's 2 very solid wins in a row, spread covering wins in a row for Texas to end the season. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State just were rolling there. 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread, including the massive win against Oklahoma in the final Bedlam series rivalry game. But since that win against Oklahoma, hasn't looked like that same team. I mean, they got absolute. Now, that was a predictable, maybe not to lose 45-3 to Central Florida, but we were worried about Oklahoma State in that spot coming off the big win. They did rebound against Houston, 43-30. Then last week against BYU, I mean, at home as a 17-point favorite, struggling to put that team away. Just a lot of miscues, a lot of turnovers. Alan Bowman had 2 interceptions. So his interception numbers have really risen the last few games. That's not what you want to see. He was playing so well. They heavily outgained BYU, over 500 yards of offense. They probably should have won that game convincingly. But there's just penalties and miscues and turnovers and things they're doing to keep a BYU team in that game. Anything like that, and anything with the penalties and the sloppy play and the turnovers, if they do any of that here against Texas, they're going to be in some trouble, because Texas kind of looks like they're starting to round into form at the right time, and they can quickly feast on mistakes and turnovers by the opponent. Just look at what they did to Texas Tech, obviously, on Friday night. Quinn Ewers playing at a very high level as well for the Red Raider, or for the Longhorns going into this Big 12 championship game. I'm always intrigued to take 14 points with a Mike Gundy team. That over the years as an underdog, we've seen him in this spot rise up before and really give teams problems. There's no doubt. But can this defense hold up against? And I know Jonathan Brooks is out. CJ Baxter's questionable, but they have Jaden Blue, Keelan Robinson. They've got such a deep running back group, Texas, that they can withstand these injuries. And, of course, Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell, an outstanding receiving tandem for them. Great offensive line as well. And this Oklahoma State defense has certainly not been as good the last few weeks. We saw them give up the 45 spot to UCF, 30 to Houston, and then 34 surviving in overtime last week against BYU. So, I definitely think if you can find team total for Texas over, I could definitely see that being a look here in this game. Full game over, I lean as well. And the number's gone up 53.5 to 55. This is at obviously AT&T Stadium, Arlington, Texas, home of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry's Palace, which is where the Big 12 championship game is every year. So, weather won't be a factor in this game. So right now I will be on the over in this game, because I do think Oklahoma State, for as bad as Texas Tech struggled offensively against Texas's defense, I think Oklahoma State's got the capabilities to have more success offensively against Texas than Texas Tech did. So I think Oklahoma State will put up some points in this game, but I don't think their defense is going to be holding up all that well here against that Texas offense, which can run it, which can throw it, which is very balanced. They've got weapons at receiver. They can run the ball. And I think that's going to be a lot to ask for Oklahoma State. So as far as the side, I'm undecided, but I have a tough time, even though I think Texas is going to win this game, I have a tough time laying a full 2 touchdowns against Mike Gundy, who's been historically good in the double-digit dog role. But I do like this over for sure. And maybe a look to the Texas team total as well over. What do you think, Connor? Big 12 championship.
Yeah, if Oklahoma State has success, I have to look back to the Bedlam game. Obviously, it was huge, their last game, but notoriously, they've kind of more times got their ass kicked by Oklahoma. But over the years, Gundy's been pretty good against Texas. When I was going through those games last night, they beat them a ton, and they've been a ton of close games in the past.
They've covered 4 of the last 5.
Yeah.
Yep,
this is over 14 now, too. So I'm a little bit interested with Gundy as the dog here, but I want to hit on the defense, because that game against Oklahoma, they made plays, against Gabriel, that 27-24, because for the most part, this defense is bad. Like Texas, 188 on the ground, they give up 172. They're not very good against the pass. They're 113. Texas 32nd, pretty good, 272. On the flip side, Oklahoma State wants to throw it. And that's the one thing with Texas. Their defense has been pretty good against the run, but they can give up a little bit. They're still great, but over 245. So if you like Texas, I think, you just go their team total. Why lay 2 touchdowns in this spot? You think if they could get to, 28, 31, whatever it's going to be here, this team total, go that route. But I'm leaning the points with Gundy here, especially if I could get 14 in the hook. The defense scares me. I think they'd have to make a play or two in this game, but I think they could hang around in this one. And one thing, that defense in that game kept that game, and that might have to happen here, but still, I get why it's gone up. Oklahoma State just been an over team for the most part, when it's like 5 of the last 6. And that one game, who they beat, TCU or somebody, it was 45-3. That kept that game under the last 6. But give me Gundy and the 2 touchdowns. I gotta take it.
That's a big number, man, for a guy that we know in this role can sometimes coach him up as good as anybody, especially in a. Remember, his team was in the Big 12 championship game a couple of years ago, and they lost to Baylor, and it was that down to the wire game that year between those two teams. So, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of points to be given, Oklahoma State here in this game, considering you mentioned the series history, 41-34 Oklahoma State last year in October. 75 points, by the way, in that game. 32-24 for Oklahoma State the year before that. They also beat Texas outright as dogs each of those last 2 years. And there were 56 points in that game, which is also why, like I said, I think the total is just a little light here in this game at 55. 75 points the year before. Texas beat Oklahoma State 2020, but it was in overtime. 41-34 the year before that. 36-30 for Texas at home against Oklahoma State. The year before that, 38-35 Oklahoma State. I mean, there has been no evidence going back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the last 6 meetings, and they've all been the only 2 Texas wins. Oklahoma State's actually 3-2 or 4-2 in the last 6 meetings, and Texas's wins were by 6 and 7 points. The 2 Texas wins. So, my goodness, I mean, that's.
What do you take? Texas looked so good last week.
Yeah,
they dominated. They were at home, but before that, they, and it was a tough part of their schedule. They won some close games. They were dealing with the quarterback, in and out. Yours was out at that time. So yeah, if you love Texas, lay it then. Lay it.
Yeah, I mean, Texas could. No, Texas personnel wise is.
Oh yeah,
it's definitely better. And if their A game matches up with Oklahoma State's C- or D game, it'll be a rout for Texas, no doubt. And they are capable if they force and that's been an issue now for Mike Gundy's team the last couple of weeks. The turnovers have been an issue. They do that shit against Texas, they're going to get run out. There's no way they're going to be able to survive that against Texas. Ball security has to be there. It's imperative. And they also have to get takeaways because I don't think their defense is slowing. They have to win the turnover battle. I mean, that's such a
probably,
easy thing. You could say that about any
I know
game, but that's especially important for Oklahoma State. They're going to have to protect the ball. Ball security is even more important for them to have a chance here, and they're going to have to get some takeaways from this Texas team and force turnovers. I think if they win the turnover battle, that's their best path to not only competing in this game, covering this number, but maybe having a chance to get the upset.
And they did that against Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I think Oklahoma had 3 turnovers in that game, yeah.
That's right. Without those turnovers, Oklahoma's probably beating them. Or Oklahoma, yeah, absolutely. Oklahoma.
I mean, they probably win. I mean, they still might have covered, but yeah.
Yeah, they definitely would have won. Like Gabriel had the interception. There were 2 lost fumbles by Oklahoma in that game. Alan Bowman played a clean game as well. That's what you need. You need to force Texas turnovers, and Alan Bowman can't make mistakes. Those 2 things happen, and that's a big if. Because Texas defense is really good at forcing turnovers. They made Baron Morton look like a deer in the headlights on Friday night. But if they can do that, no turnovers themselves, and force those turnovers on Texas, that's going to give them a chance. And that's their best chance in this game. Because I don't think man-up defense, they're not going to slow down Texas a whole lot, which is why I like Oklahoma State just a little bit, but I like the over. Even more than the side in this game. All right, let's go to the MAC championship game, the Miggity Mac Daddy at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. That's where this game is every year, the MAC title game. Miami, Ohio, Redhawks, Toledo, Rockets. Toledo, 8-point favorites, 44.5, 45 the total in this game. Numbers come down a little bit here in this game as far as the total, 46.5 down to 44.5. It's kind of a tough game for a totals bet for me. Toledo is kind of like an over team the way they've played, especially of late. Their offense has been just clicking and humming. But Miami O is definitely an under team. They're not a great offense, especially now with Avion Smith at quarterback. He's a okay passer, but he's not great. They have to run the football to be effective, Miami O, but they have a very good defense, and they've had a very good defense all year, Miami O. And their defense is going to have to be on point here. In this game, no question about that, because their offense is still, very pedestrian right now, given the situation that they're dealing with, and that's the fact that they've got Brett Gabbert out for the season. So it's Avion Smith that they've got to hitch their wagon to at the quarterback position. And when you look at his numbers this year, I mean, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Somehow he's only got 181 he's got 529 passing yards, but only 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 52.5% completion rate for Avion Smith. And that's the issue for me with Miami O and wanting to back them here, is that their offense, I don't know if I trust it enough. And Toledo, I've obviously had issues with laying points with them, as we've talked about. But they got an impressive win last week against Central Michigan in a meaningless spot. I think you have to give them credit for that. And their defense has gotten a lot better. Defense at times early in the year, not so great. But down the stretch, we've seen Toledo, other than the Bowling Green game, they've given up 23 or less in 5 of their last 6 games. They've played better defense, and this is a very limited Miami O offense. To me, the key was I wanted to see how Toledo's run defense is, because I'm convinced that if Miami can't run the football, they aren't doing jack in this game on offense, because they have very little passing game with Avion Smith. So you look at Miami O, they've got to be able to run the ball. Unfortunately, Toledo on the ground is only giving up 3.9 yards per carry and 142 rushing yards per game, but the yards per carry number is pretty solid for Toledo's run defense. So I worry about Miami's ability to run the ball and I in this game, and if they can't, are they going to be able to move the ball? Their defense is really good, but man, they're going up against an offense that's been really rolling, playing well. And DeQuan Finn, for as much as they've been a run-heavy offense, especially earlier in the year, DeQuan Finn is starting to get a little more improvement lately in the passing game, and he's been better in terms of being able to throw the football with a little more efficiency. 65% completion rate, which is his best completion rate since he's been here, and he's been here for years at Toledo. Almost 2,400 passing yards, 8 yards per pass attempt, 21 touchdowns, 8 interceptions this season for DeQuan Finn. So this is his best year as a passing quarterback he's had by far here at Toledo. So it's a really, really tough game. But I don't know if I want to take Miami O because I like their defense. I like the idea of them getting more than a touchdown. But I remember I went against Toledo, I believe, in the MAC championship last year, and they ran away with it pretty convincingly in that game. I believe they played Ohio last. Well, not convincingly, because they had no Curtis Rourke. Remember, that was the backup that was quarterbacking for Ohio that day. But their defense just shut down a very limited Ohio offense, and they won and covered, and they won 17-7 in that game, Toledo, in the MAC title game last year. That's what I'm worried about. Miami hangs, and the defense keeps them in it for a while. Then they get tired as the game goes on. And if you get tired on defense against an offense like this, you're going to cave eventually and give up a late touchdown and break your back, and that's it. And there's very little backdoor potential for an offense like this right now. So lean is Miami, but it's lukewarm. I went against Toledo in the MAC championship last year and paid the price for it. I don't know if I want to again. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. I also look, hey, we have to go through like 35 games. We'd all like to break these games down longer.
Extensive
from week to week.
Today, it's a smaller slate. Yep.
Yeah, that's why this week we do it. But we'd like to do that normally. We don't have time for it, in the day to get that. We want to get all these games out. Man, so last week, it was good. Miami, Ohio has been money all year. I went against them, though. They should have been laying points. Ball State covered 17-15 last week, but they're still 9-3 ATS. They've been good away from home, and the best thing about it is their defense. And these defenses are close. But Miami, Ohio is a little bit better, and they're going to have to lean on them here. And I think they know that because the offense isn't great, like he talked about with Smith. But I think they could make enough plays. So this was October 21st. Miami, Ohio was at home. Toledo was 2.5-point favorites. They got the win, 21-17. I see it similar.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this game is similar to that. I think over the touchdown, I got to take Miami, Ohio, even though Toledo is a little bit better, and especially on offense. But I like this defense. I think they can keep them in this game. So give me the points. A team that's been a dog all year, I'll take them over the touchdown here at 8.5.
Yeah, no doubt. And you know what? They were down big early in that game against Toledo, that regular season game in October. It was 21-3 for Toledo, and it was 14-0 for Miami in the second half. And they almost came all the way back and won. But that, again, was with
That's something with Toledo, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was with but
Yeah.
they've done those weird things where it's like that's why they haven't covered as big favorites over the years.
Yeah.
They'd get a lead and they blow it, or they get down and they got to come back and they win for you, but don't cover. So it's been like that for them.
Yeah, it should be a fascinating game. I'm looking for. I also have Miami O to win the MAC. I bet that preseason. I think I've mentioned that a couple of times. So I'm cheering for them. That's why I'm probably not betting.
Oh, okay. That's why you're not betting. I get it.
Championship future pending on Miami O. So I'm waiting on that. Hopefully to cash. You never know. All we got it. Just one good game from their defense, and it can be done. But that's an interesting one. We'll see how it plays out. All right, Mountain West championship game. If Conor Mack doesn't go to the Pac-12 championship game, maybe he'll go to this one.
I know.
This is also at Allegiant Stadium, Las Vegas, Saturday afternoon, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Boise State and UNLV. That's right. You're not seeing things. There's nothing wrong. You're not under the influence of anything. Yes, you are seeing that on your screen. UNLV on the marquee in the Mountain West championship game. What a turnaround season. Boise State, 2.5 point favorites, 58.5 the total, 59. So as much as I love what I've seen out of UNLV, Barry Odom, outstanding job, defense much improved. Jaden Mayava, they've definitely found a quarterback that they can rely on moving forward, and he's just getting his feet wet here at the UNLV. Very impressive, 9-3 on the season. Like I said, extremely impressed with what I saw from UNLV all season long. This is going to be quite the challenge for them because they got a Boise State squad that is absolutely peaking at the right time, playing their best football right here, right now, 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread, coinciding with the dismissal of Andy Avalos as well. Let's keep that in mind. He is definitely, I think that cleared the air. I don't know what happened, but clearly there was some disconnect, coaching and players or bad, just bad vibes. And obviously this team struggled on the field performance-wise, and you're seeing it's been a different Boise team and dominant. They destroyed New Mexico. New Mexico beat Fresno, and Boise destroyed New Mexico 42-14. They destroyed Utah State 45-10. They took it to Air Force 27-19. Now, Air Force has struggled down the stretch. UNLV beat Air Force as well. But, man, Boise's playing outstanding ball right now. They're healthy finally. That's a big factor. They've got their stable of backs, both of them healthy and on the field at the same time, and they are a load. George Halani's back, and to go with Ashton Genty, and that's a really, really good running back tandem for Boise right now. Talon Green at quarterback, playing with confidence, throwing the ball well enough, and we know what he can do with his feet. It's a really, really good offense right now. It's one that's going to be significant challenge for UNLV here in this game. On the flip side, like I say, I think the Boise State team can move the ball on UNLV. That's the one thing about the Rebels is that the defense is still against some better offensive teams, a little shaky. I mean, it's one thing to shut down, New Mexico and Wyoming defensively, but, Air Force moved the ball well against UNLV. Fresno, the game they lost, the only game they lost this year, or the only Mountain West game they lost, 31-24. They struggled a bit defensively in that game, UNLV, and it goes without saying, they got shredded. Wow, by San Jose State in the home finale. But the spot was a little dubious, right? They just won the biggest game they've won in years against Air Force, get into the Mountain West Championship game. You kind of figured UNLV might be in a little bit of a hangover spot. They were, no question, against San Jose State last week. But Cordero picked them apart. They couldn't stop the run either. Kyrie Robinson, 165 rushing yards for San Jose State in that game. I don't know. I love the run for UNLV. My heart wants to take them here, especially getting 2.5 points in what's their home stadium. Although Boise and the blue folks from Boise, Idaho, are going to make the trip.
They're going to be there.
Travel, no question about that. And how even in the turnaround year, it's still been difficult to draw people into going to the games for UNLV at home. You're there and it. So while it's been a nice turnaround season, it's going to still take, I think, another year or two of really solid football play,
Yes.
to get people invested with their pocketbook and their money to buy tickets again for UNLV football. So there's going to be a lot of Boise fans there. It won't be a true home field environment or atmosphere for UNLV. I got to lean Boise. My head says Boise. My heart says UNLV. I like the over in this game. I think you'll see points. I think Boise can move the ball. And I think UNLV can as well. They're a little bit more trustworthy right now offensively, in my opinion, than defensively. So I lean Boise. I like the over as well. And, of course, you won't have any weather issues inside it. Allegiant. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, you know what? Last week, I just didn't know if it could get there because I thought it was a little high. It did. But I feel the same here about the total, real quick. I think it's just a little bit high. And both these teams, just their defenses are streaky. One thing that was big in some of the losses last week, it was only -1, but they lost a turnover battle. To that game they lost, UNLV. They remember all those turnovers that in that game they had. But all the other games where they've won, Bavano, they've been plus. UNLV's top 20, I believe, in the country.
Oh, I was making a great point.
They're I might have to bounce out. They're in the top 20 +8 turnover margin. So they need that here for this defense. That's, like I said, kind of bend but don't break all year long. The offense has been really good. This one's tough though. You bet. I'm just gonna watch this game. I think I really want my money on it. I think it's a good game. UNLV's now in it. They haven't played Boise in 4 years, and this used to just be Boise. They could go in with their D game and beat UNLV by 2 or 3 touchdowns in years past. So I think UNLV will be pumped for it. There will be a ton of Boise fans there as well. So it's tough for me. I'm just going to watch. I don't think there's really a great betting angle in this game. You know, we have a low number here. It's 2. So, but I think UNLV could win. Watch out.
I do too. Part of me is worried psychologically about UNLV. Are they just happy to be here? Are they just
that's true.
This far already? It's already been just an amazing season, way beyond anybody's wildest dreams or expectations of what UNLV would do this year. That they would this kind of record, 9-3, and in the Mountain West Championship game. Look, they obviously you would think, you still want to win the game, but I know for a fact I would think Boise really wants to win this one because they were in this Mountain West championship game, I believe, last year, and it was a true home game for them, and they lost to Fresno 28-16. So they're in the Mountain West championship game for a second straight year. A lot of the same players that lost to Fresno State last year in the Mountain West championship game. So there's that. We really want to, we want to put ourselves through the situation of losing here in the conference championship game 2 years. So I know Boise State's amped up. And Boise State's playing their best football right now. The Avalos thing really provided a breath of fresh air for this team. They have been surgical on offense since the coaching change. 3-0 straight up, 3-0 against the spread. All their victories by 8 points or more. That's why I'm thinking Boise in this game. Even though I'm pulling for UNLV, I am. I got to admit, a lot of friends out there, not just Conor, but people I've know in the industry, and a lot of them have supported UNLV all these years, living in Las Vegas. So I'm cheering for them. I just don't know if this is a great matchup for them, and I really think that run game for Boise is really starting to percolate now that they've got both backs, Helani and Genty, back in the running back position for them. All right, Conor is going to be back in moments. In the meantime, we'll move along to the AAC championship game, Yulman Stadium, New Orleans, Louisiana, home of Tulane, where they will host SMU here in the AAC title game. Tulane, 3.5, 4-point home favorites, 50.5 the total in this game. SMU just beat the hell out of Navy last week. Just left no doubt whatsoever that they were going to be one of the participants in this AAC championship game. Of course, they had to beat Navy to get in. They did, and they did handily, 59-14. This offense is a terrific, very well coordinated. Rhett Lashley deserves a lot of credit. They're well prepared on offense most games. Preston Stone's been outstanding throwing the ball. He can run with it a little bit as well. Tyler Levine, Kamar Wheaton in the backfield. Moochie Dixon, RJ Maryland, Keyshawn Smith, great stable of receivers, great offensive line. They are dynamic. They are explosive. SMU's offense, make no mistake about it. But I'll tell you what, this Tulane defense, which maybe I disrespected them too much, because I was looking at their middle part of the year and I saw them give up 28 to Rice, barely win, gave up 28 to North Texas, barely win. And I'm like, what's wrong with this defense here for Tulane? They're not playing as well as I thought. Well, they found the defense again the last couple of weeks. They shut down Florida Atlantic, final regular season game, and then they just made they turned Frank Harris into a puddle. Unfortunately for our friend Jose, last week in that AAC championship game. 2 interceptions, drop passes galore, turnovers. UTSA, I'm telling you what, they hang on to the football and don't turn it over as much.
They're in that game. I'm just telling you.
Yeah. They are in that game, and they couldn't
5 turnovers.
The foot. Yeah. Yep. Just and plus failures in the red zone constantly, over and over again. They actually did move the ball against Tulane, but Tulane got the turnovers, and Tulane was just, every time they got close, they punched it in and they scored points. And that was the difference in the end, in that 29-16 win. It's frustrating as someone that was on the over in that game for me too, because UTSA was on the verge of, if they hang on to the ball, they could have had themselves 28 or 30 points in that game, but just could not hang on to the football. The question is, can Tulane get those turnovers out of SMU? You know, it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult to do that. That being said, I took a shot against Tulane last week. I'm done doing it again. And I love SMU, but let's give Tulane their due. They won this conference championship last year. They were the best team in this conference last year. They're doing everything in their power to show they are again. They're at home. That's a strong damn home field too, Tulane. They've got a good home record there, 6-1 straight up at home this year, Tulane. And their only loss at home, you know who it was? To Ole Miss, in a game where they didn't even have Michael Pratt at quarterback.
And they hung around a little,
early. Was a close game in the fourth quarter against Ole Miss, and that's the only home loss they had this year. So I'm done. I paid the price, stupid, to go against Tulane at home last week, dummy, because you know how much I loved Tulane last year and bet them every week, and they cashed for me, and Willie Fritz, and I love that guy as a coach. He's done an incredible job. This was a dead program, dismal, embarrassment of a program when he took it over. And look what he's done here with Tulane football. They want to go to Tulane now. Kids want to go to Tulane now. It's unbelievable what Willie Fritz has done and turned this thing around in just a short period of time. No anti-Tulane bet for me this week. It's Tulane or nothing for me. I learned my lesson after last week. And I loved SMU. This has the potential to be a close game. And SMU can win this game. But I still think defensively, Tulane's just a better defense than SMU. SMU still had a couple of those games this year. Memphis game, Rice game, where they gave up 31, 34 points. That's what worries me about SMU. I do think we have the better defense as the favorite in this game, that being Tulane. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, just here. Yeah, Stone was hurt in that game. He's got a leg injury. I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, keep an eye on it. They don't the early week report on Preston Stone, because you're right. Last week, he was not able to finish the game. Plus, they were up big too, so they could put in. Kevin Jennings was in there for the most part after he left that game. They expect him to be good to go. There's more precautionary than anything. He's questionable right now. Keep an eye on it. Yeah. Injury. We'll see what the status is, but they're being quiet right now. They're optimistic. They're optimistic that he still might be able to go on Saturday, but keep an eye on that. Jennings would be the quarterback. That's the answer. And this is a guy that came in there. Remember, he got hurt at the end of the Rice game. He actually got hurt in the Rice game, Preston Stone. I think he's been battling that same injury really ever since. And you look at what they were able to – he was 4 for 6. He was solid. Completion rate was there. Now, it's obviously Preston Stone's had a great year. There's no doubt about that. It's going to be a drop-off, but Kevin Jennings looked good when he was in there. Now, I don't know how much you want to make of him looking good against Navy, because all Southern Miss or SMU had to do in that game essentially was just run the rock, and they still threw for 369 yards against Navy in that game. 322 of those passing yards came before Preston Stone left the game. He still had 322 of the 369 passing yards against Navy last week. But no, they still think there's a chance he could play. Initially, it looked bad, but right now he's questionable, and Rhett Lashley says it's a day-to-day thing, and we're going to see as the week progresses. So that's why it's tough to move. Certainly can't bet SMU until you know whether Preston Stone's going to play. But this is my thought on the game, regardless of the quarterback situation for SMU. I just don't want to lose betting against Tulane anymore. I'm done doing it.
No.
They were class conference last year, and I think their defense is a little bit better this year than SMU's.
Yeah. If he doesn't go, there's no way with Jenkins. I know he's come in just short
home field.
Yeah. On that home field.
Yeah.
One thing too, the darling of Tulane last year. Now they were laying points, of course, kind of all year long, but they were good against the number. The last couple of weeks they got, 2 wins ATS, but I was kind of going, I think a couple of weeks ago, Babano, I'm like, they're winning football games, but kind of just winning, going through the motion. I mean, they're 11-1, don't get me wrong, but I thought the defense has been the best part of Tulane all year long, and Pratt's still good. So, yeah.
But he hasn't been lighting it up this year as much.
Pratt. No, but hey, they keep winning. I know. But that's what I meant. Some of these games, like Rice was a 2-point game. North Texas was just a touchdown. ECU, 13-10. Tulsa, 24-22. Tulsa played better football towards the end of the year. SMU always, is a team. They've had a great year. I can't back them at all. So I get why this line's moved a little bit. It's over the field goal. But, I'd lean Tulane here.
Yeah. So again, this is definitely something to monitor throughout the week. Preston Stone, his status. But again, it's too early in the week to determine his final playing status for this game. It'll be Kevin Jennings most likely if Preston Stone doesn't go. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Sonny Dykes used to be the head coach, and he went to a TCU. Jesse, he's at TCU now. Rhett Lashley's done a great job here with SMU, and I'll tell you what, it will certainly be a great job that he's done if somehow he can. If let's say Stone doesn't play, they got to go to Jennings, and he's able to go in there and still beat Tulane with a backup quarterback. I mean, that would be some kind of accomplishment.
Yeah.
If that happens, and that's probably there's two. That's probably also why the under has been bet in this game. The total's gone down a bit, and there's a chance of heavy rain and thunderstorms at kickoff on Saturday. But again, before you say look out, don't wind. What's the wind? I know it's rain and thunderstorms maybe at kickoff for this game on Saturday, but as I said, and I ranted about on X, look at the Bills-Eagles game. Did rain impact that game staying under? No. Wind is the only thing to worry about when it comes to totals betting. Wind and only wind. Rain and snow is not enough to ever bet an under. Yeah, if you like the under because it's a good matchup and you don't expect either team to move the ball, it's not weather related. It's got to be a handicap that's not weather related. If you're seeing a game with rain and snow, rain and snow does not cause the unders. Wind does. So that's always very, very important to remember that. I saw a game with snow like crazy. Iowa State, Kansas State went over the total. I saw a game with piss down rain, driving rain the whole game yesterday in the NFL, Buffalo, Philadelphia, and the game went over the total. So again, it's just goes. I keep saying it. Don't overreact to rain and snow and say, oh, raining, got to bet the under. Snowing, got to bet the under. No, wind. Wind is the one factor that really will hamper an over because the passing is tough in those conditions. The ball just gets knocked down in a gusty, windy day. Yeah. That's just the way it is.
Meteorologist.
That's just, I'm trying to help you.
It's true. It's a fact. No, it's
just a bad
I'd say over 15, though.
Yeah.
I'd say we start thinking about it when it's over 15 miles an hour. Wouldn't you say? Like it starts getting there and then to 20, then, you get past that, then there's a problem. But 10 mile an hour and under, I think it's not too bad.
It's just a bad narrative on social media when I see people betting the under in this game, 60% chance of rain. Get out of here. I mean, that's not going to impact the game staying under. Wind and only wind. Trust me. If you remember that when you're betting totals, that wind is the factor and the only factor you've really got to worry about when it comes to overs That is something you got to remember in the future. Take it with you. All right, Georgia and Alabama, SEC championship. Georgia, 5-point favorites, 55 the total in this game, down at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. So Georgia, they lose this game, they're almost assuredly still in the playoff. They're the one team probably that can get in with one loss as a non-conference champion. But not that they're going to want to take their chances, but I'm pretty sure they'd still get in. Alabama has to win, to guarantee that they get in, or to have a really good chance to get in, I should say. There's no question about that. But it would be hard to keep out a one-loss SEC champion like Alabama if they are able to get the win. But I don't think Georgia's going to rest on their laurels. And I think Georgia, believe it or not, has had a tough time in the SEC championship game against Alabama. And I'm reading some stuff that they're hell bent on trying to finally beat Alabama, because Georgia's kind of beaten them in the national championship. But if you look at the recent SEC championship games when these two teams have played each other, Alabama's actually gotten the better of Georgia. So I think if you're Georgia, you're coming into this saying, no more of this. We're going to finally take care of business here in the SEC championship against Alabama. I mean, you look at the last year in the SEC championship game, it was 41-24 Alabama. Bryce Young went wild, huge day throwing the football against this Georgia defense. So that was but Georgia got him back, obviously, in the national championship, winning 33-18 that was a couple of years ago that happened. So I think Georgia remembers, a few years ago, we lost to this team in the SEC championship game. And we got him back in the national championship. We won the even bigger game in the end. But, to me, it'd be hard for me to go against Georgia. And I think they're rightful favorites here in this game. And Alabama, too, is having to just grit and just grind their way to that survival in the Iron Bowl last week, 27-24. Whereas Georgia, you could tell Georgia's already got their eye toward this game, because against Georgia Tech, it was kind of go through the motions. They were kind of some of their starters, both sides of the ball, offense, defense, either didn't play or didn't get the full amount of snaps. Brock Bowers didn't even play last week for Georgia against Georgia Tech.
The final was a little bit closer, too.
Yeah.
They scored 10, in the fourth. I think it was 31-13, and they scored 10. Yeah.
10 unanswered. So it was a get-in, get-out game for Kirby Smart. Actually, looking back on it, I probably should have maybe considered Georgia Tech there a little bit more, because I figured.
But they had gotten whipped a little bit lately.
Yeah.
Against, in years past, that game would always be good. But the last 10 years, man.
Yeah, Georgia whipped them. So that's what ended up, you're right, keeping me off that. But nevertheless, I do think Georgia's the better of these two teams, not only this season, but right now, based on the way they're playing. Carson Beck in the offense coming around. We know what they can do on defense. Yeah, Jalen Milroe, to his credit, he has gotten so much better now compared to early in the season, but navigating his way against this Georgia defense for the first time, by the way, as a starting quarterback. Hasn't faced Georgia. This will be his first time since he's become the number one quarterback here at Alabama. Let's see how he fares. I don't know if I bet the game, but it's probably Georgia or nothing for me. What do you think here, Conor? SEC championship.
Yeah, I wanted to look back here real quick. One thing that Auburn had success. We knew that game would be not every year, but at home. We talked last week how Auburn's going to be in, especially off getting their ass kicked. And I said they had to do it. And Thorne still had a couple interceptions, but they ran it. He ran it well. The running backs, they had a ton of yards against Alabama. Alabama's run defense has to be better. If they get gashed, Georgia will take it to them. This Georgia defense is good. It's just, I've talked all year, they've had the easiest schedule all year long. And they beat up who they've had to. I do think they're better, but Bama's in this. They survived. They got the win, so this is tough, because looking back, I think Alabama could be in this game. And you're right. In the past games here, SEC championships, they've took it to them. And I think they're thinking of that. I think this game also, I don't know about the total, because Georgia's defense comes to play. This stays under, but I don't know. This total's here at what, 55? Let me double check here. What do we have on this total?
Yeah, it's right around currently
56.
55.5. Yeah, 55.
Yeah, 55.5, 56. So I don't know. this looking at this last night, I wanted to wait on this game. There's a couple of games I want to sit with, through the week where we go on this Monday where I just jump and make a bet on. I already have on a couple of these games. I'm going to wait a little bit. I don't know if Milroe can make the plays when it's come down to it, but he's gotten a lot better. Like you were talking about earlier, Babano, but I don't know if I trust him. I think a motivated Georgia could win by a touchdown here for sure.
Yeah, 2018, 2021. We basically saw these two teams meet up in the SEC championship game. Kirby versus, obviously, Nick Saban. 35-28 for Alabama in 2018, and then the 41-24 last year. Both of them went over the total, 63 and 65 total points in those games. So I lean over. I don't know if I love it because, this is not that same. I don't think the quarterback play for Alabama is as good, this year as those 2 years. They had Bryce Young last year or last year in the SEC championship game. And then in 2018 with the 35-28 Alabama win, that was Tua Tagovailoa, who was the quarterback that year for Alabama. And right now I Jalen Milroe's not either of those guys, at least not yet. Bryce Young or Tua going against this Georgia team. So yeah, those two off games in the SEC title went over the total, but Tua and Bryce Young, 2018 and 2021 in those two games and then in the national championship game, it was 33-18 Georgia 2 years ago. And that game ended up staying under the total. But yeah, I like lean Georgia, lean over still. But I like Georgia a little bit more than the total here in this one. By the way, we got breaking news here. We were just talking about it. Holy shit. We were just talking about the status of SMU quarterback Preston Stone out for the season, announced moments ago by Rhett Lashlee, head coach of SMU. So there it is. Preston Stone out for the season. Kevin Jennings will start at quarterback for SMU against Tulane on Saturday in the
This is moves right as they said it. I see 5.5. Yeah.
And I'm just looking at my screen right now. Fours are gone, 4.5s are gone, fives. I'm even starting to see 6. Yep. So and the
6.
under as well, taking money. So they like Kevin Jennings though. Be careful. They do. And I remember he came in. Now that was Rice. Tulane's a lot better team, but he came in and he moved the ball. Kevin Jennings, and now he's going to get a week to practice with the first team offense. So never say never, but man, it got a little tougher for SMU without Preston Stone because that's a hell of a quarterback that's going to be out now for them in this game on Saturday. Tough news. You hate to see that. It takes away some from this game a little bit, but we'll see. I mean, Tulane's probably, you're right. I don't know about smash Tulane, but Tulane probably wins this game now, I would say. But I don't know if it is to
what 7. Tulane comes. I've been they haven't been the ATS just covering easily all year long.
The last couple they've covered, but
they have
the UTSA game. UTSA hangs on to the damn football. It's probably a really close
They cover. I bet you that game's.
Yeah.
Yes. 5. Absolutely. That was hard to watch. Yep. I mean, I had the under, you had the over, so I liked it, but they should have been right in that game. Yeah. That was hard to watch.
Turnover city. You can't win that way, no doubt. So no Preston Stone out for SMU on Saturday. All right, let's go to the Sun Belt Championship game. Appalachian State, Troy. Troy 6.5-point favorites, 51 the total. This is a true home game, of course, for Troy, playing at Veterans Memorial Stadium. They've been absolutely, by far, the best team in this conference all season long. 10-2. Entering this game. There's a huge difference in the defensive acumen of these two teams. So if you're betting this game based on defense, I mean, you look at the Troy defensive numbers, they're absolutely outstanding. They're only giving up 103 rushing yards per game, 3.2 yards per carry. They're only giving up 196 per game through the air. And it's a really stout, as usual, Troy defense. And then you could contrast that to App State, who on defense have allowed almost 5 yards per carry, 169.5 rushing yards per game, 214.2 passing yards per game. But again, with this Troy offense, this is a team that, definitely wants to run the football, although they've been throwing it with Gunnar Watson. I think they've got their most faith and confidence in Gunnar Watson that they have had throughout his entire tenure as a quarterback here at Troy. And they should, because to be quite honest with you, he's been around forever, this guy. He should finally have his best year yet. and he's done that here for Troy this year. And their offense actually is a lot more explosive and has been better, especially down the stretch here. They put up some big numbers. Now, not the greatest teams, ULM, the Cajuns, and Southern Miss, but still they've scored 31, 35, 45 their last 3 games. 3 straight games have gone over the total as well for Troy in these last few games. We'll see how it goes here. This has actually been an App State dominated series. If you look at series history, App State 45-7, a couple of years ago against Troy as a 9.5-point favorite. They were a 14-point favorite last year against Troy, and App State got the 32-28 win in that game. Very, very impressive job there. So it's an interesting handicap, but to me, I remember Troy was in the championship game. I'm trying to remember when it was, but it was Troy in the championship game in this conference, and they were favored, and I got a little cute with it, and I said, I don't know if I trust them laying this many points still, and they absolutely blasted. It was Coastal last year. Yeah, 6.5-point favorites against Coastal in the Sun Belt Championship, and they cruised 45-26 in that game. Just absolutely rolled the victory. And their offense did damage. I actually think this could get over the total, believe it or not, 51. And I'm not a big Troy over guy, but 3 straight games have gone over with them. 32-28, 60 points last year, head-to-head with App State. 52 the year before that. 57 the year before that. 61 the year before that. You've actually seen nothing but 50s and 60s with these two teams offensively. Absolutely. And look, you do have to give App State credit in one key category. While Troy's the better defense, their offense has picked it up. But App State with Joey Aguilar, he's playing well. This guy's not even the number 1 quarterback. This guy took over for the number 1 quarterback who got injured early in the season for this App State team. And I'm trying to remember his name now for App State. Oh, it was Berger. Ryan Berger for App State. Joey Aguilar took over, and he has not looked back. He has played extremely well. And you got to respect that this team went to James Madison, everything to play for, undefeated season, went there and beat them 26-23 and made their offense look as bad as it's looked all season long in that upset win against JMU a couple weeks ago. So it's a really fascinating game. I do like the over a little bit. I still think Troy's the right side, though. Better defense, laying less than a touchdown. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, because Troy can run it. They throw it. Their numbers passing have been great too, but they average 150 on the ground. And App State is over about 170. They have not been good. But when I first glanced at it, Troy's just been beating up teams and winning. It hasn't mattered. And some of their games have gone over because they've lower total, like we see 48, that type stuff, and they've just gotten over. So I don't know with this total. This is total I wanted to look at a little bit more. But the more, if I get a 7, App State has owned them. I know Troy probably knows that. If I can get a 7, though, I'm going to look at App State. I thought this offense with Aguilar's played great as of late. They've been able to just put up points in bunches. And this is as a team in Troy that I've really wanted to go against at all. But I like how they played. I think they could hang in this football game. So if I get a 7, I'm going to lean App State.
Yeah, I don't fault you. I think, but 7 would be 7.5. I'm no longer interested in Troy. 6.5, I am a little interested. I do think there's a gap defensively.
I get it.
Teams.
Well, the defense has gotten a little better for App State, I think, as the season's gone on.
But you know what's funny? I can't figure this out. Georgia State, they played well defensively too, but Georgia State hasn't been the same offense down the stretch. But they also had these games, man, where they're giving up 28 to East Carolina, who had 0 offense this year, 40 to UL Monroe, 28 to Old Dominion, 38 to Southern Miss. Some of these defensive performances.
The last few weeks have been better.
Yep.
The JMU, 26-23, they've blown out.
Yeah,
Georgia State,
they
Southern,
James Madison totally especially in the second half of that game. Shocking in that against that great James Madison team that was previously undefeated. So I mean, it's a head scratcher that they were that good defensively in that game to win it and beat James Madison with some of the bad Civ defensive efforts they had App State earlier in the season. So that's why
Hey,
I
teams
do think
change from early on. You know what I mean? So they're a little bit different from September.
I feel better with the over in this game at 51 than either side. That definitely will play over because Troy has gone over in 3 straight. Gunnar Watson's playing with probably the best he's played in his Troy career. They can still run the football. They've scored 28 plus in 4 straight games, Troy. So for all this talk about they rely on their defense, not so much lately. Their defense is still good, but their offense has really started to pick it up. And I think App State's offense with Aguilar at the controls can do enough offensively against Troy's defense, although it's good. And I think Troy will move the ball against App State's defense. So 51, I'm interested in the over for sure. All right, let's go to the ACC championship game. Everything on the line for Florida State as they take on Louisville. Florida State 2.5-point favorites, 49 being the total in this game. Huge move in this number. Louisville all the way down to 2.5 here in this game. I think there's a lot of reaction to the less than inspiring Florida State offense last week against Florida on Saturday. That was a bad Florida defense they played and struggles to get really much of anything going for a while. Now, eventually they did, but it's still definitely a work in progress for Florida State. Not to mention, I think he's going to be fine. He's going to play Tate Rodemaker, but he did get banged up a little bit. And to the point where the third string quarterback, Brock Glenn, had to come into the game briefly for Florida State on Saturday against Florida. So, but I think Rodemaker is going to be good to go. And I would expect Tate Rodemaker here in this game to be fine. Of course, Jack Plummer and the Louisville Cardinals coming off their loss to Kentucky. And, it was just one of those classic kind of situations here. The team already was locked into, the ACC championship game and maybe looking at this as the bigger game and a chance to play the ultimate spoiler for Jeff Brom and his Louisville Cardinals here against Florida State. Because let's be real, Florida State as a one-loss team with no conference championship is not going to be in the playoff, not with a backup quarterback. So the committee wants no part of putting Florida State in the playoff, probably at all because of the Jordan Travis situation. He's out for the year. Their only path to the playoff, Florida State, is undefeated and winning this ACC championship game. They will not be in the 14 playoff, in my opinion, without a win here on Saturday night in this game. I got to be honest, they've found ways to win. Florida State, they've been gritty. It hasn't been pretty, but they have just been the ultimate find a way to win. Miami game wasn't pretty. They won. Florida last week was a struggle in Tate Rodemaker's first start, but they found a way. Don't forget, they still have a hell of a defense, Florida State, which is really good. They've got an outstanding running back in Trey Benson. And even if the quarterback play is a little iffy with Rodemaker, they've got a couple of receivers, Johnny Wilson and Keon Coleman in particular, that, can make plays on 50-50 balls. Even if it's underthrown, overthrown, they can stretch out, make a great catch. That's something that can help a young quarterback, So I get it. If you got 6.5, and this number was Florida State minus 6.5, I think even just like a couple of days ago. No, actually, as of Saturday, early yesterday, we saw 5 with Florida State as favorites.
Yeah, some even had it off the board. Yeah.
And then 4.5s got taken out. The 4s got taken out. The 3.5s got taken out. The 3s got bought out. And now it's 2.5 pretty much everywhere. What I would say is if you didn't bet Louisville yet, don't bet it now. I don't think you can. I don't have that much faith in Louisville to win this game at the current number when you could have had a 6.5 or even anything of 3 or better you could have had all these years. So we'll see how this one plays out, but I don't know if I'll get involved because there's just so much pressure on Florida State to win this game, knowing that playoff or bust. But I still think they're a better team. I do. And I think they're a better defense than Louisville as well. So I'm going to now at the discounted number, I'm leaning FSU. Find a way. And you heard what Mike Norvell said in his post game after the Florida win. They're a tight group. They respond to adversity. It hasn't been pretty. It's been ugly at times, but they find a way. They win games. They persevere through all the problems. And Jordan Travis's season-ending injury, they persevered, and they've got a loaded roster still. Let's not forget about that. So As long as Rodemaker cannot make too many mistakes, this is still a winnable game, in my opinion, for Florida State. I got to lean to them now, less than a field goal. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, if you got Louisville, at that better number over 3, I get it. But I still think Florida State could win this. And real quick, Louisville just lost, and shout out, I had the Kentucky over 6.5 wins. Babano, I thought that was dead.
I know.
And they come back and beat Louisville last week. So that was great.
And Louisville, so it's not that shocking, yeah.
And Louisville, I said they were going to lose. I thought it was Kentucky, if not there, then going to be here. Now the quarterback, we'll see what happens there. But I still think you kind of hit on it. Florida State's got a pretty good defense. I thought that they played well against Florida. They had to have a big fourth quarter. They ended up winning. I think that can happen here. And I think Louisville's pretty good as well. I like Plummer. I just don't know what to make of them. Their schedule was easy. They went 10-2, then they finally lost after that close game with Miami. I thought just threw that game away a little bit. It was close, could have gone either way. So yeah, I think if you like Florida State, you could just take it money line here. Obviously, it's down to 2.5. I think they could win again, and it doesn't look good because they probably get smashed, in the playoff. We'll see, but I like them here. Now, if you can just get a money line, I like Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, now less than a field goal. I'm going to see maybe this move even further because it's already moved a ton on Louisville here going into this game. But will it move further? I mean, you line up position by position.
I think this game's close.
Yeah,
I think this game's close either way. Like probably 3 either side or a touchdown or less. Yeah,
I agree. It's just position by position. Who's got the better talent, the better recruits, O-line, D-line? It's Florida State. There's no question about that over Louisville. And Jeff Brom's doing a nice job. They're gradually matriculating better players, better talent there at Louisville, and he's going to keep doing that. But still, Florida State has got a lot of premium athletes in all these different positions on their football team, and that's what's allowed them to overcome the injury here to Jordan Travis down the stretch of the season. So very interesting. Yeah, better in the trenches, 100%, Andrew. That's exactly and that to me still could be, as long as Rodemaker throws 4 interceptions, then that throws all this out the window.
And that could happen.
Yeah,
and that's why they play the fucking game.
Exactly. So, now I'm just telling you, if you like Louisville, you're now no longer getting a discount on them. Not at all. Now that it's down to a 2.5. All right.
Just take a money line if you like it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Final game for our conference championship edition of Hitting the Books. Big Ten championship here. Michigan and Iowa. Neutral field, of course, Lucas Oil Stadium, Indianapolis. That's where this game is every year. Michigan, 23-point favorites here. Look at this total. Lowest in Big Ten championship history. 35.5 the total. Of course, as you would expect with a team like Iowa involved. Great defense and offensively inept. So we know Michigan is clearly the better team, is going to win this game. This would be the ultimate shock for them to lose this game against Iowa. No question about that. But when I look at Iowa's defense, I truly have to ask myself, as much as people talk about it, and I heard them say it, they're trying to hype this game up. I heard Gus and Joel at the end of the Ohio State-Michigan game saying, you better get ready. Michigan and Iowa, Big Ten championship on Fox next week. I'll tell you what, Michigan, heavy favorites, but I heard Gus saying it, don't you sleep on this Iowa team. They've got one hell of a defense, he said. And he's just trying to do the hype machine and get people to want to watch this game and say, hey, Iowa's defense can keep them in this game. But here's my criticism here of that argument that Iowa's defense is so great. Let's go through this here. Nebraska, Illinois, Rutgers, Northwestern, although Northwestern's offense has been better, but still
Minnesota. Keep going.
Minnesota, Wisconsin, who've had issues, and Mordecai's been banged up all year. Purdue, Michigan State, hideous offense, Michigan State. I don't want to hear about how good the D was in that game. They played one good Big Ten offense. It was Penn State. They gave up 31 points, and they got shut out. 31-0. And they gave up 31 points to Penn State. Michigan's got a better offense than Penn State. in my opinion. Absolutely. And they've got at least some kind of passing game with J.J. McCarthy. They've got obviously Corum leading them at running back. There's no question about that. So, people just talking about this Iowa defense like they could go into Alabama and shut them down, or go to Washington and Oregon and shut those teams down. Maybe it's just their defense looks so fucking great because they played one piss poor offense after another. Maybe that has something to do with it right now. So the way I approach it is I don't trust Iowa's defense here against Michigan, because I just saw this team away from home give up 31 points to Penn State earlier in the year. So I'll tell you the bet that I like, and I'm going to see if there's numbers out for this. Rather than messing around with minus 23, I don't feel like I want to mess around with that point spread with where it is right now. But whatever you can get here on a Michigan team total, and I'm seeing like 27.5, 28.5 with Michigan's team total in this game, I say it goes over. Seriously, I think it can go over the total. They gave up 31 to Penn State, and Michigan to me is better offensively. This has got more of a passing attack offensively than Penn State, and their run game, with all due respect to what Penn State can do on the ground, is better than what Penn State can do with Corum. I like Corum running the ball, Donovan Edwards as well. And don't sleep on the receivers. I know the run game gets the most of the attention, but Cornelius Johnson stepped up. A.J. Barner stepped up. Roman Wilson has stepped up. Colston Loveland has been excellent, in the passing game for McCarthy here in recent weeks. So to me, that's what's tricky about the full game total. I could clearly see 31-3, 31-0 in this game for Michigan. So where their team total over hits, but the full game under also hits. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I've got Michigan in that 31 to 35 points that they're going to score here. And I thought the team total is the best way to go about it. I don't buy this hype and all this regurgitated jargon from the masses here that Iowa's this great defense. Maybe they're just a great defense because they haven't played anybody, and they haven't played any sort of good offense this season other than Penn State, who got 31 against them. And now Michigan, an even better offense than Penn State, is who they have to deal with here in this game. So if I'm betting anything in this game, that's it. Michigan team total over. What do you think here, Connor? Big Ten championship.
Yeah, I get it. Zoe just put it. Yeah, or Iowa team total under.
Or
this is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could bet both. This is last year, the same thing. It was 42-3. Someone put it in the chat first half. I don't mind that. I think I had that last year. I don't know how they get more than a touchdown. They're going to need some Michigan sleepwalking maybe early. And that didn't happen.
With Jim Harbaugh coming back on the sidelines for a Big Ten championship game, undefeated season.
I don't think
get
so.
yourself into the playoff, but they're going to be sleepwalking. I'd be shocked if they're sleeping. Harbaugh back on the sideline, who they're playing like they're all in, and they're win one for the Gipper, and we're rallying around our coach, and now he's actually going to be back on the sideline. I can't imagine for my life that they'd be sleepwalking on Saturday night.
I don't think so. Win one for the khakis. So this is a blowout. Iowa's played nobody since that Penn State. You brought it up, 31-0. I don't know how they move the ball in the Michigan defense. They're going to need the mistakes to be in this game.
Deacon Hill's going to be climbing uphill in this game for Iowa. Yeah.
So you nailed it already. That is it. I got nothing on this one. That's it.
It's really simple.
Michigan's big.
You could bet either Michigan team. You could lay 23. I mean, I don't want Iowa. I know that. I don't want Iowa getting this many points. Michigan showed last year they have no problem pumping, anybody in this game, and they've done it year in and year out. It seems like when Michigan's in this game, they destroy the opponent. That has happened quite a bit. So. Yeah,
the last couple of years.
You can either lay the points, you could take Michigan team total over, or you could take Iowa team total under. Iowa's team total, though, is only 6.5. That is really, really low. But, man, it's even getting a touchdown. It would be hard for me to – they got shut out by Penn State. They didn't score a point against Penn State. Michigan's even a step or two up on their defense.
And the problem here is, they turn the ball over. They're Michigan's defense, Baveno. You're right, because Michigan's turnover, they're top 3 in the country. Like if Iowa has a couple of those, it just steamrolls, kind of like last year.
Yeah,
they roll.
Yeah. I wish I could tell you it's going to be a hell of a game, and Iowa's going to pull you the shocker of a lifetime here, but I just don't see it. I just
remember all year I said they're going to win, get to the Big Ten championship game, and get waxed. Here we go.
Yeah, it's probably a wash, rinse, repeat. And look, that definitely, the Zach Zinter injury, that is worth, that's not going to be, I think, a huge loss for this game, but definitely in the playoff, they will miss him. He's one of their better linemen. There's no doubt. And that's definitely going to be something. And like I said, I mean, last year it was 42-3 Big Ten championship game for Michigan over Iowa. So I think you'll get something, maybe something similar in my opinion. It's just hard to buy into Iowa with no offense at all. None whatsoever. I mean, it's just absolutely atrocious what this kind of team is, Iowa, on the offensive side of the ball. Great stuff. That is your conference championship preview show, preview edition, conference championship preview edition of Hitting the Books. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button on the way out. Of course, we'll have the individual game preview clips posted later on today. Shout out again. We've got lots going on Pub Sports Radio, of course. We've got Mike M's show at 6 p.m. Eastern, weeknights, last call. MNF live stream tonight for Bears Vikings. Make sure you check that out. I'll be on for the first half. CMAC will be popping on as well tomorrow night. Jimmy and Troy with Bankroll Blitz, getting you ready for the NFL, and lots more programming here at Pub Sports Radio throughout the week. And of course, we only have two shows before the end of the calendar year 2022. I think we'll do a national championship preview show on the Monday, the day of the
the day of maybe.
January the 10th, I believe it is. We'll be on that day, but we've only got two shows left for December, and they're both our bowl preview shows. We'll do bowl previews part 1 next Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, first half of the bowl slate, and then we'll do the second half of the bowl slate, part 2, on Monday, December 13th. So those will be our next two shows, December 6th, December 13th, our bowl preview shows, and then hard to believe, another season of Hitting the Books just about coming to a conclusion. Crazy, Conor, how quickly, every single year, how quickly it goes by.
So quick. Calendar turns, though. The sports never stop, though, Savannah. They never stop.
They never stop, indeed. So, we're looking forward to next Monday, our first bowl preview show. Looking forward to it next Monday if you join us again here on Hitting the Books. Conor, Mac, final thoughts, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, shout out to everyone. Just hit the like button. That's all we ask for. Jacksonville, Zoe, Andrew G. Bowls, yes. Go smoke one. Jesse, Rance, Al, Nasty Nate. He wants to go to the New Mexico State game. I don't blame him. Bama boy, everyone in here. Shout out to you guys that are here all the time. Paul Taylor, the Sailor. Nutflush, Allen, Noli knows. Dude, Robert Franklin, everyone. Appreciate you. Let's get after it. Conference championship week. Let's go.
Absolutely. We will indeed get after it. Looking forward to all the games taking place. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have yourself a great week. Enjoy conference championship week in college football. Enjoy the games, and good luck. We will see you again next Monday for part 1 of our bowl previews. Next Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, another edition of Hitting the Books right here on Pub Sports Radio. Until then, class dismissed.